Uh, so I went through AFEX during COVID, so 2020, 2021. Feels crazy to think so much time has flown so quickly, but yeah, mm, I went met. How did I find out about AFEX? I guess to start off, so there was a girl that I went to school with, that some of you may or may not know, named Awar, who introduced me to AFEX. I was in Kenya. Um, I went to International School of Kenya, and I will say, I think for me, my case was a little bit different. I You could probably tell a little bit by my accent, but I grew up in the U.S. for most of my life. I'm Ugandan ethnically, so I knew that in most that I was very likely to go to the U.S. But I think what put me over to for sure go to the U.S. was over maybe going to the U.K. was um, the U.S. You just have more opportunity to try different things. I think the UK once you're locked in with whatever you apply to study for, and the US gives you the chance to change things, and even just like the activities you can do outside of academics is just a way bigger breadth of opportunities. So for me, I'm pro US over the UK all day. I went to the University of California, Berkeley, where I ended up graduating with a degree in computer science. I initially came in studying biology. I wanted to be a doctor. And then after a year, I actually changed because I got more and more interested in biotech and health tech. And so that led me to be curious to take some computer science courses. I ended up enjoying it a lot. And then that ended up becoming my field of study. I graduated this past year in May 2025, and now I work in San Francisco at email security startup actually, and the plan is actually later this summer in August. I'll be at the same startup, but now I'll be working in New York. So um, yeah, that's a bit about me, and kind of what I've been up to post at AFEX.
All right, thank you, Harun. Thank you so much. So I think we've already is any panel member here that I've forgotten to call? If I've missed anyone, I think we have everyone here. I know Brian is supposed to join. Like I said, he said he's doing some patients rounds at the hospital, so he will definitely join later. For now, let's get right into our topic. Our general topic here is whether the myths and the realities about studying abroad. What are the realities here? We want to have a very honest, interactive conversation with our panel members and, of course, with the audience we have. So I'll get right into that. My first major question here for the panel, which I'll give each individual a minute or so to kind of respond to it, is kind of, yes, an important question. Does studying abroad really give students a better future, or have we just romanticized it too much? I mean, that's my first question. Is it romanticized? Like the way we hear about it before we get there, is it romanticized, or it's really a very good decision to make if you think about it? All right. So I can throw it to anyone if you don't mind. So I could start with maybe Glenn. Glenn can go. Okay, Ben has actually volunteered to start. So Ben, go ahead. If you can go, then just a minute for everyone to kind of chip into this particular question. There. So Ben, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think it's romanticized at all. Um, just when you go to like a place, especially like the US, I agree with Arun. It is by far probably the best place in the world you can go to where the possibilities are endless. Like the only limiting factor to how much you can achieve is your discipline, your work ethic, your own ambition. Like, I don't think, in that sense, I don't think it's romanticized enough because it can really change your life. Like what I'm doing right now, I never, ever, 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 ever thought that I would ever be able to do this. So it is by far one of the best decisions I ever made.
Does anyone think there's a romanticized side to it, really? I know a lot of you, all of you have benefited from it one way or the other, but is there a romanticized side to it? You feel back home or back here in Kenya, in Ghana, do you think people have a romanticized view to it
Oh,
based on your experiences? Yeah.
Sorry, Glenn wants to talk. Glenn wants to talk.
oh no, no,
So,
Benjamin, go for it.
okay. I do think there's a bit of, um, especially the cultural side, it depending on where you're from, who you are, that transition might be a little difficult. Um, but I think if you can sort of give yourself the support network, the people around you who can help you through that transition, I think that for me is the biggest thing, like the cultural shift for
Mm.
some people.
All right. Okay, Glenn.
I mean, I was initially going to say that it really depends on what you think a better life means and what you are hoping to achieve. I know that at least I benefited from studying in the US, mostly because it allowed me to school. Wait,
Yeah, we missed the part of it. Just say that again.
I was very logged in on going to medical school and like being from Ghana, doing general science, smart kid, everyone is like, oh yeah, you need to become a doctor. And then going to the US actually allowed me to try different things. And turns out I don't even like hospitals. And so it was, I think having the opportunity to be outside home was definitely very, very beneficial. But as to the romanticization, it's very easy to think, and I think sometimes the message is go to America and then you are set. Everything is just going to happen. And it just does not happen that way. Our parents have taught us that you have to keep working hard, and that does not change when you go to America. To an extent, you might actually have to work for those opportunities more because they are bound and they are there, but um, it's not automatic. You have to push yourself, do different things, try different things, and of course, be in a different cultural context, racial context, so many other things that change and like different challenges. And so it's definitely not as easy as it sounds sometimes.
All right. Let me go to Shaq. Shaq, from your personal experience, just in the same kind of question, what is the truth? What is really the truth? Yeah, from your personal experience.
I do think it is romanticized, but I do agree that you can create a great life for yourself. It doesn't come easy. And in fact, that great life, you might realize that it's fantastic only after leaving the US and then coming back and being like, oh, actually, things were quite great. But it's definitely romanticized in the sense that we're living in an age of like social media, TikTok, or even I think even the UK is romanticized. We're seeing people going out on a piano night, the African community coming together, which it does feel incredible in those moments, but that's not your entire experience. And ultimately, you are here to study. Some of us, I was definitely privileged to have, I had a 97% scholarship. Here at Oxford, I'm on full scholarship, but that's not always the case. You might have to find yourself picking up extra jobs. And if you're not the kind of person who is accustomed to doing work when you were home, maybe you came from a more privileged background, that might be quite difficult for you. Maybe you've not been juggling, academics, hobbies, work on the side, and then these new kind of maybe expectations, if you're adjusting system wise, maybe you've not written a kind of academic paper that's required for you in the US, and you were used to writing a different kind of form of paper, but because you just maybe showed up to the US without doing complete research, you might find yourself feeling completely lost and then becoming really demoralized, and then that carrying you through almost to the point of dropping out. People do drop out, and it's not a matter of, also just like background and privilege. Sometimes, I hear, parents who had lots of money, they're paying for their kids, to go to the US, and this parent was telling me his daughter could absolutely not cope with it. And it's not, she was not having to work because her parents were also, kind of keep doing the monthly upkeep. But there are things that also come up socially, because we've seen this picture, from the movies. I mean, maybe you can't let go of Legally Blonde. You want to be in a sorority. You find that those kind of experiences might not suit you as an African, or maybe there are some sororities, academic sororities, but you didn't research the college that you're going to, so they only have Greek life. They don't have academic sororities. So these are the things that maybe you didn't do enough research. You didn't prepare yourself socially. I saw somebody put in the comments, loans. Loans, my people, please. They're so attractive. I know people who are still paying off loans right now, and I'm talking about also international students, which is a different kind of loan agreement as well. So you have to navigate those kind of things. Or maybe you weren't ready to file taxes. You will file taxes in the US. That's not something that I was immediately aware of, because I was, thinking about the UK initially. And in the UK, my sister was never paying taxes. So she, did 7 years in the UK, never had to worry about filing taxes on time or doing insurance claims, because, insurance was naturally applied. So, you just kind of go to the GP normally. You've done this through your visa process. It's quite different in the US. You might have to pay extra for your insurance. It's not tied to your visa. It might be tied to your college. Being an international student, you might not be able to change your insurance, even if you have cheaper options, because your school has some sort of legal deal. So there is this thing that you might, romanticize about life in the US, especially if you're going with your friends. That's something that I think people forget, because you're going with your crew from back home. You think you're all in the same boat. You're not all in the same boat, or you think that all of you Africans, you're together. Yes, there's camaraderie, but you have different financial statuses, you have different comforts, socially. Some of you have different values and morals, different majors, and ultimately your path is your own. Maybe you're trying to carry the version of yourself that you always thought you'd be like. Maybe you're trying to stick with medical school, and medical school is really not going to work out for you, and you don't know how to pivot. But this is the life that you've always, always imagined without thinking of backup plans. I'm not saying don't stick to your goals. Goals are very important. You need to have those things to guide you. But if you're not able to pivot, to adapt, I'm sorry, study abroad is really not for you. You don't have the comfort of your home. Flights are very expensive. Weather changes. Professors can be rude. Not everybody is going to love you, even if you're used to being bubbly, like I am. Bro, I'm used to having easy time sometimes. People, because I will laugh and throw a joke. People don't like that demeanor. And in California, that worked for me. Coming to Oxford, bro, people here move with a different kind of aura. I don't have a word for it. Maybe the Gen Z slang has caught up to me, but they move with a different kind of vibe. And so I can be loud singing in the kitchen. And, now I'm homies with my flat. I make them brownies and they love me. But in the beginning, it was like you're being really loud, or they would make a joke about, me in a way that I didn't like. And I was afraid to set boundaries. Set boundaries. Don't romanticize life that everybody's going to like you. You're going to go to all the parties, or parties look like what they are in the movies. But I do agree, there are opportunities, but they don't show up on your lap. You have to research. And also, the crazy thing that I learned about is some are very hidden, especially the ones that you need. They're not being advertised on the front page of the university newspaper or on the website. You might have to click a couple of hyperlinks before you find out that you don't need the loan. There's actually a grant for international students that you won't have to pay back. You might have to do a couple of double clicks and knock on a few office doors. But if you're not willing to do that, not willing to step out of your comfort zone and ask questions, and go to every office or really state your situation. I'm not saying, go there, beg and cry, but there is a way to say, hey, I'm an international student. I can't afford to be going A, B, C, D here and here to pay for this. Is there another way? If you're not going to have those kind of conversations and you're going to accept it is what it is, I'm sorry, it is what it is. You might just hate the US, but it could be amazing. So, yeah, take that the way you
All right,
will.
so
I'm
You
going
ate
to
that
pause
up. Go
now.
ahead.
yeah, great. Even Glenn is saying that he was shocked that he has to pay to join a fraternity. Yeah, of course, these are some of the little things that happen that just kind of
No, I
takes
literally
you back
was
to
going,
school.
I was like, oh yeah, we are going to join and we are going to party. And they showed me the dues and I was like, well, I'm just walking back. I'm not going to join. Yeah, I'm African. I already have a job and I'm sending money home. I
Yeah.
cannot spend half of my money to party with you people. That can't happen.
Do you
Yeah,
mind if
so yeah,
sorry.
go ahead. Michelle, go
I,
ahead.
I just wanted to like put a ribbon that's not so nice. And excuse me for being informal. America brings out a certain dog in you that you did not know you had. It brings out a different level of grit that I didn't even think was possible. And maybe it was because I came from, like, I did broadcast as an international institution, but I don't think that really changes anything. Hi, you see, all of us are benefiting right now in some form or some sort, but with high reward comes an extremely high price that all of us individually had to pay in some way, or some form. And Shaq has just started touching on it. And I can't even imagine people who came from like living in East Africa near the equator to moving to an extremely cold place. Your body is struggling to adapt to change. And on top of that, you're still expected to show up to class. You don't have the benefit of a leave of absence in a time like COVID, like everybody else. You are an international student. You do have expectations to show up for your classes, to show up for yourself. Everybody's flying home because of ABCD. You don't have the opportunity to fly home. You are put into the place that you have asked to be in, which is to study abroad, and you stick it through. And so it's not a mean to scare you, but it is a reality that you have to face. So I wouldn't use the word romanticized, I would use the word glamorized. There's like this sheen of beautiful, this is a beautiful sheen when you think of studying abroad in the US. Oh my gosh, everyone is making money post grad in some form and some sort, yes. But school itself and life post school, especially as an international student, please note that when you fly out, especially if you're on OPT or still F1, you have to have paper signed and you have to have them signed and make sure that they're correct because you will have issues. If you're about to have your visa expire, you cannot be traveling the way you want to travel like everybody else. You can't. There's stipulations and there are limitations to that right that you've been given in the United States. And so those are things that you have to come to terms with. And even though you're making more than you thought you would, yeah, you will understand that you are a visitor. Thanks, Glenn. That's perfect. You are a visitor. You've been given an opportunity. You have to work triple, if not quadruple, as hard as everybody else to get just as far. And you will remember that you are a visitor in this country. I sadly, as much as I have changed direction and pivoted in a beautiful way, I am constantly reminded that I am a visitor with everything that consistently happens. Like, for example, being very vulnerable. I'm finishing my OPT and in this July. And if I didn't have if I hadn't gotten into the grad schools that I did, I don't know what option that I would have had, that all the benefits that I've reaped and all the hard work that I've put didn't matter. Those would have all been put in a suitcase back straight to Kenya. And it would really wouldn't have mattered. And so what that really teaches me is that when push comes to shoves, this is not your country, but at the same time, you can reap the benefits of being here. You can figure out how to adapt and push yourself. Because, like, from what I'm hearing, everyone was some form or some way going to become a doctor. I don't understand what we had on the plane going, that all of us were all pre-med at some point, that it was just in the water. And now we've all been able to see something new. And so that what I can say America does is gives you a horizon, a different perspective that you didn't have, opportunities, career paths that were not possible for you because just maybe where we grew up or what we didn't understand. America understands certain things, and America is has backing in that understanding through money, through opportunities. There's an open-mindedness that comes with funding. You can be open-minded back home, but it doesn't come with support and it doesn't come with money. Here, you can be able to have that money that comes with it, and you'll be able to do it successfully if you're able to pay that price. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
All right, guys. I know this is a very, very interesting conversation. I have a lot of questions already. I think Kaz wants to say something as well. Kaz, just a
Yeah.
minute. Go ahead.
Um, on the topic of that is not your country, for someone, I haven't yet started university, so I cannot speak about the university experience of being an international student. But I basically was a nomad for 9 months. And one thing I can definitely highlight is that is not your country, and those people do not love you. I feel like there's a different sense in how people treat you when you're staying for vacation and when you're staying for a long time. And when you're in a country for over a few months, they really it shifts because at first it's curiosity, it's interest, is what are you doing here? How are you? Very welcoming, and they're very like accepting of you because they know you're gonna leave. But once they see you've been here for a really long time, the attitude shifts. And one thing I really struggled with is, first of all, visas. You have to be very, very on time, prompt with your visas. I had to apply to over 10 visas. And for one, I got rejected 8 times. It was the biggest nightmare of my life. My dad thought I was joking around and he thought I was playing in his face, but really, they just didn't like me. I applied for my Saudi Arabian visa 3 months in advance. They said they would give it to me because I already had a Schengen visa, I already had an American visa. So I said, oh, I'm good. Life is amazing. And then they told me to do a biometric scan in Nairobi. And I said, oh, easy. But they refused to let me into their embassy. Their VFS refused to take any of my documentation to even make time for me or accommodate me. And when I traveled to another country, because I was never in one space for longer than a month, when I traveled, I was now in Istanbul and I went to the Saudi Arabian embassy there. They just told me, it's because you're black. And that is why they're not going to give you a visa because you're not coming to work for them. You're coming for vacation. Therefore, they do not like your kind coming for such things. So you may face those type of struggles and boundaries when it, depending on which country. Therefore, research really does matter. Other things such as like severe racism. For example, I was in China for over a month and definitely I was dealing with constant racism. And some of my friends couldn't understand me as we were a very diverse community and they weren't black. So they didn't understand that I became very normalized at a point to people taking random photos and videos of me or grabbing my hair or saying bad things about me. Once a lady had said to me in Chinese, but one of my friends understood, oh, do they even shower? Does she even wash her hair? Because I had twists in my hair. And those are all things that you have to be prepared for as you leave your home and you leave this comfort zone that is very, you might not see the benefits of, but every time I come home, I'm just so grateful because nobody's gonna judge me, no one's gonna question me. And I definitely think that's one thing you have to mentally prepare for, the visa battle and the cultural battle. Yeah.
These are very, very good points. I really, really like that. And the personal experiences are also great. Shaq, I also really miss your brownies. I remember you used to bake good brownies as well. So thanks for bringing it up. It's a good memory. All right. I don't know, Harun, do you want to come in on this one before we move to the next one? Do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, you grew up in America, so I'm wondering. I remember one of the things that you did mention earlier on before you went was I don't know whether my memory serves me right, but I do recall your mom or your parents being worried at some point because I think you did mention it to me about also being black and in certain spaces. Did that kind of hold true for you when you went back to the States?
Yeah, so I will say, I think it's depends school to school, I will say. But generally speaking, at a lot of the places you end up going to, or you end up probably attending for school, the student population is very accepting, or is very like I don't know how to best put this in the it is very let's say left wing, or pretty much what I'm trying to say is like they're very people are tend to be like, yeah, very very accepting, and not really ignorant. I guess where it can be a bit interesting is in some of these schools, of course, the percentage of black people maybe compared to whites or Asians is definitely less. And then also, um, so sometimes you can feel like, are people going to look at me a certain way? But I came to realize that, in order to really succeed in the US, you have to just be unapologetically okay with putting yourself out there. Regardless of what, because I think that's the one in terms of just getting opportunities. If you don't do that, that's gonna limit the opportunities you get if you're closed off. So when I got to college, that was my mentality, was, I'm going to just, put myself out there, um, not restrict myself from, meeting new people. And yeah, a lot of my, closest friends, or great friends I made in university, aren't black. A lot of them also don't have the background that I had in terms of going to a international school. So I would say, just put yourself out there. I know it's easier said than done. Um, but that's the one thing I would say. And then I think the other thing that I would put out to what other people were saying is like, also be prepared to realize that um, it can be way more competitive than how you found it in high school. I know some people mentioned they went to Brookhouse, Strathmore. I know like those schools in of itself were kind of competitive. Um, I knew people there, but I would say like the US can be even far more competitive than that. Not far more, but not just academically, um, but even just professionally. When you're applying to jobs, you have to realize it's not just a matter of like studying. I think we get used to like in high school, like if I study a certain amount, that's going to be enough to succeed on the test, or do well, or get a job. You start to realize, I think, that it's about doing things in a smart way. So, hey, if it's like, do I study with certain people, identifying certain people who know maybe the information better than me, surrounding yourself around those people when you're studying for exams, or if you're applying to jobs, some of these school clubs are extremely competitive. It's almost like applying to a job in of itself. I know maybe some of you guys at Cornell can relate to this, because I know at Berkeley this was a huge thing. But at the end of the day, some of those clubs actually will could put you into directions, where you can then find full-time opportunities and internships. And so I think one thing that I'm really trying to get at is like, embrace the competitiveness, because it really will actually prepare you for life after you graduate, whether you decide to do more schooling, or whether you decide to you're done with school and you decide to just enter the workforce. I will say, just know that, um compared to what you've done in high school, like, things are far more competitive. But that's not to scare you or anything. Just realize that you have to train yourself to start thinking smarter, or doing things in a more efficient way, than not necessarily just working hard. Especially in today's world, you can apply to 300 jobs and not get a job. So you still have to start asking yourself, do I reach out to people, at certain companies? Oh, there's alumni from our school who work at these places. Let me reach out to them. So you start to realize like there's ways of doing things systematically that make things easier. But again, one thing I would say is like, even though it can be competitive, I think it is necessary for after you graduate. I think it puts into perspective that, look, the world is just not fair, and you can't play fair. That's the truth. So Um, yeah,
All right.
uh, yeah, that's what I would say. It's yeah, about
All right. I've heard a lot of questions. Now, as we're having this discussion, for those of you who have questions, you can always put it in the chat. From the audience, put any question you have there. And I can see my panel members are making comments, so some of them they might even answer it right there as we are having this discussion. But I want us to get into I mean, we've talked about some of the difficulties that comes with studying there, some of the realities there as well. So I really like that. But the question I want to pose to the group is yes, there were a lot of sacrifices that went into it. Some of you did get scholarship. Some of you had some family support as well. You have made some personal sacrifices. Um, so whatever it is, there's definitely some form of major investment you made into going abroad. Now, looking at that kind of investment and sacrifice, what would you say there is the one value that you gained from studying, in the US for most of you? Beyond the degree, I mean, beyond the degree, what is the one thing you can say is the value you've gained from studying abroad? And I 1 minute for each person. Just take us through that, just a minute, so we can cover a few more grounds on this. So Harun, you can start since you are already here. Just 1 minute on that. What do you think beyond the degree? What do you think is the value you gained?
yeah. I think the biggest thing was just learning how to navigate difficult problems. More than anything, you'll come to realize like there's many situations in which you can get humbled. Whether it's tests, whether it's applying to jobs, and I think, or even applying to school clubs, and so I think um, studying in the U.S. has a great way of really just showing you that hey, things aren't going to be handed to you on a silver plate, and you have to work hard for them. Um, and I think that sort of mentality and thinking is something that you really need going into the real world after you leave college. Um, and so, it can of course be frustrating at times because it's like, wow, okay, I'm having to go through so many steps to get to what I want. But I think um, that sort of resilience is what will make you realize that hey, I can do anything, beyond this that I decide to put my mind to. So that's the biggest thing. Of course, there's all these advantages of like, hey, I can now go to maybe a very nice grad school, or I can get a very high paying job out after graduating, and um, we're all Africans, so that's all great. I know our parents would be very proud, but I think the biggest thing is just um, the difficulty that you face. I think that really prepares you well for life.
For Michelle and Ben, what do you think will be the what value you gain? We can start with Ben and then to Michelle. Beyond the degree, what do you think is the one value that you can place your finger on and say, yeah, it was definitely worth the sacrifice?
It actually touches what Haroon has talked about, because for me, it's resilience. In the US, there is, or at least in my school at Cornell, there was so much like I had to do because I was on an 85% scholarship. And going into like the school housing and the school um dining plan was not feasible for me because it was too expensive. So I had to work. I had two jobs for 3.5 years. Sometimes, and it was in the dining hall so that I could get food and then go home, study, and then just use the money to actually pay for rent. And then, but for me, I also had like kind of a privilege because my family is in the US, so I never had to come back to Kenya. Like that was my advantage while I was there. But other than that, like no one is looking out for you. You have to work really, really, really hard. Otherwise, it sometimes it's for naught because I know some people who went there and didn't go so well. So it really teaches you resilience. That's the biggest thing I've learned.
I can see Glenn agrees with you since you guys went to the same school. Glenn, any thoughts? And before Michelle comes in, Michelle and Shaq, any thoughts on that before we move to the ladies?
I think for me, it's a true assessment of your own abilities. Because and it goes two ways, right? Like you in at least in Ghana, and I think actually in all my African friends experience this. We find it very hard to talk about ourselves and to hype ourselves up and be confident in our abilities because if you try to show that you know where we come from, it sounds like you are bragging or it sounds like you are being overconfident. And sometimes you actually do know. And so you start to do this fake humble thing in class where you're like, oh, you don't want to say it or you don't want to do this. And you realize very quickly that sometimes you actually have to truly assess your abilities to be able to go in and say, I actually do know this and you can so you can advocate for yourself and um um sell yourself properly. But then on the flip side, being able to also recognize what you don't know. I remember like I got my first the first paper I ever wrote in the US, I got a D. And that was something that had never happened before. And it was because like I did not understand in class, but in my Ghanaian public high school, you don't say you don't understand. What you do is you take it in class, when they ask you, do you understand? You say yes, sir. And then you go home and try to figure it out so that you can come and write it the next day. It turns out I did not know. And to be able to truly assess your abilities to actually go to office hours and tell the professor, I don't know. Turns out the professor is being paid to teach you. And if you say you don't know, they'll actually teach you or point you to resources to go get the help. And so it's like being able to actually find that balance to really acknowledge the things you don't know and to be confident in the things that you do know. It's definitely a value that I think. Yeah.
Michelle,
I
one
do.
value.
They've already touched on the whole resilience and grit thing, which is very important. I believe it changed my ambition, my ability to see how far I can actually go and what opportunities are there for me beyond the traditional ones that we think America gives or think the UK gives. Getting here showed, okay, there are a million roads possible and they can all lead me to the success that I want. And now that overall taught me how to make a plan. So ambition with the discipline to work towards what I want. And that changed a lot for me. And especially pivoting. I committed to my major in my third year and I pivoted in that third year to say I'm now really wanting to push fragrance. And it came with a lot of pushback from every direction. But that ambition of seeing that, yeah, the possibilities there and people are making it to the stores. And this was at the rise of companies like Topicals, which is by West African women going into stores that are universal. And I was just like, yeah, ambition, ambition and the drive for it. So that's one thing that I would say this place really gave me.
All right. Shaq, one value.
I would say, in like combining everything that has been said, I bring that exposure because it is through the exposure that I got through the US that you would define your ambitions, you learn different kinds of grit, resilience. I thought I knew what struggle meant. Of course, I mean, with the 19 or 18 years when I was in Kenya, you don't know, of course, what our parents know. But at where you are at that time, that's a bigger struggle that you have experienced. So as you continue to move and transition, you experience something bigger. And I'm really grateful for what the US put me through. Now it was a lot, but these kinds of experience, like the jobs, right? Like working all these different jobs, and like Benjamin had the experience of the dining hall. I never did the dining hall. I apologize. I worked as a barista at a boba shop. First of all, I didn't even taste boba in my life before at that point. What was boba, you know? And then next thing I knew, I was managing this store. First, I'm like, what am I doing managing a boba store? Like, what is this thing? But I knew as a Kenyan, I love tea. I drink tea for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and in between. And so I was like, I'm gonna bring that love for tea that I have and my love for people And everything that Glenn said in terms of speaking about yourself, I realize that if you sit back quiet and you expect people just to notice your work will just keep on moving, passing you by. Your professor might give you a pat on the back, but you're not going to get the internship. You're not going to get that award, that grant, that connection. You have to speak about yourself. You really, really do. And people can tell when you are speaking, you're just speaking from somewhere that should not be spoken from, or when you're speaking from like your mind and from your experiences and from the knowledge that you have carried and learned from other people. There's a way in which people can tell. But if you don't speak about yourself, especially in the US, because they have that kind of culture, but you're coming from Kenya, you're coming from a different African country, and you're not able to speak about yourself. But the US gave me that exposure. It showed me the consequences of being somebody who's too quiet. It showed me the consequences of being somebody who's too out there as well, maybe trying to over socialize instead of trying to find the balance of being by yourself, planning, forming your goals. The exposure to, I went to Alaska. What was I doing in Alaska? That was my first internship. My first internship, I found myself in Alaska. Mind you, I applied to stay in California. I applied for different cities in California, near my university in Northern California. These homies got back to me and said, hey, we're sending to Alaska. My mom said, Alaska who? Alaska where? Alaska what? But I still went. And it was one of the most incredible experiences. And Alaska gave me exposure to a different community, gave me exposure to a different kind of academic kind of work with ethnography and whatnot. I mean, I got to, see anthropology through, of course, the lens of how we saw it with the colonizers, but also how, in the new creative ways in which it can help us understand, immigrants' experiences, Black women's experiences in hospitals. So it was this really, insane way of seeing academic and practice and policy come together. Found myself in Brussels and Italy and in Hungary, in these different places that taught me different things, that shaped me as a person. And I also got to see the consequences of my decisions in a great environment. But trust me, you also see the consequences of your decisions when you're moving in really insane ways, when you're disregarding your health and disregarding your bank account, and also disregarding the fact that it's an F1 visa and not a citizenship that you have. So these kind of experiences, even with friendships, okay, making international friendships, having roommates, living with people from different places who clean and cook and shower very differently from the way in which you do. And how do you manage those kind of relationships when you live with someone who just won't clean up after themselves, who leaves hair in the shower, and you've signed a contract? So what are you going to do then? How do you manage these relationships for the sake of your mental health, your professional and academic life as well? So the exposure was so honestly, I can't add worth to that. Like the US and the UK and studying abroad for me and all these international travels have been so worth it beyond what, the money that was spent. But at the same time, yes, the money that was spent was significant. And so don't play around with those opportunities either.
Yeah. So before we kind of get into that, I have two questions that I want to merge, because you kind of touched on some of them already. The first one is, because then as we get into it, you can combine both. What mistake do you think students should avoid when they first arrive? Okay, first mistake, particularly in the context of now they are enjoying freedom, independence, and then combine that with responsibility. So that's the first one I want us to tackle. And then combining that with, how did you cope when things became difficult? I'm looking for kind of personal experience there. I know everybody has this kind of very, very low moment whilst you're there. So, first one, what mistake do you think students should avoid when they first arrive, particularly in relation to now that they have freedom, they have this independence now, there's no parents there. How do they deal with that? And then the second part of it is, you, in terms of your personal experience, how did you cope when things became difficult, particularly in things of culture, weather, food, loneliness? Sometimes we have mentioned racism a bit. Kaz has also touched on that, academics or something else. All right. So those are the two things that anyone can jump in here when it comes to these two important questions. What do you think should be? I mean, give us your experience with that, and what advice can you give? Anyone can jump in here. I don't mind. And audience, please keep your questions coming in. Ask any question you have there, and then we'll respond to that.
Let's start to respond to the combined question. I think one thing to avoid when you start thinking about freedom and all is drinking. Alcoholic activities. You know, in Kenya, we have a fun time here. It's not that serious. They don't enforce their laws that much, you know. And you might be thinking, I'm 18. You might forget, depending on where you're going, how they're gonna treat alcohol and substance and all of that stuff. So I'd say be very careful, read upon it, and just make sure you manage yourself. And in the sense of, even if it's allowed for you to drink at 18 or 21, you still have to manage yourself, because you don't know how the people around you are going to act. They don't, you, these people are not your family. They're not your close friends that are going to most likely take care of you if you're under substance and such things. So I'd say when it comes to substances, watch yourself, watch your back, be careful, manage it, take it in the amount you know you can manage, if you're even allowed to take it. If you're not allowed to take it, I'm not going to speak about that. Be careful, watch out, because if you're caught with such a thing in your hands in a foreign country, you will be deported. And how are you going to explain that to your parents? Exactly. So just don't do it. And when it comes to having low moments and how to cope with those, one thing I think Shark mentioned earlier is I brought tea with me. Every country I went to, there was tea in my bag, there was spices in my bag. I just, if I was having a very low moment, just having something very small to connect to home really helped me. So, for example, for Ghana, I had shito packets in my bag all the time. And for Kenya, I had tea with me all the time. So I just never, I could not let go, because the food can really affect your mood and how you treat others. So it's really key that you nourish yourself and have things that you enjoy and that will make you a good person. Because I don't know about everybody else, but I get very, number one, hungry and angry when I'm not eating well, and it can affect my relationships and the way I deal with people. Of course, that's something that I gotta work on. But in retrospect, um, just make sure you have things you love. Maybe even like a teddy bear. I had many friends that carried their home dolls with them, or a picture. Like I have this photo at the back of my phone case of like my parents, so that anytime I'm like feeling, oh, I missed that, I pick up the back of my phone. So you definitely have to carry things that are personal to you to give you strength to push through the hard times and the challenges you're going to face when you're abroad.
Um, I'm just going to say my piece because I have about 6 minutes before I have to leave. Uh, I I like the comment about, bringing something with you that reminds you of home, and it really will come in handy, especially if you're dealing with like weather inconsistencies. California was super, super hot for me. And then also got super cold for me. And then the UK showed me a different kind of fire. And especially when you combine cold with no sunshine, because California at least was somewhat respectful. Like when it was cold, there was still sun. And, even when it was really warm, like, you don't have that, okay, you just have a little couple hours of sunshine, and then, it gets really dark and cold, and you're going to class when it's like pitch black, looking like it's 9 p.m. I found the UK was somewhat disrespectful in January, February. Right now, it's a bit disrespectful as well because it's a heat wave, and it's not even as hot as California. But I'm like, why do I have this warmth coating all over me? So if you can't handle the weather, please prepare yourself, find coping mechanisms, get those lamps that help you, get some vitamin D, get your vitamin D tablets. Don't find yourself where you're in a new environment and you're dealing with weather, and then you also allow yourself to get sick. because it's really bad when your health is declining, you're dealing with a new cultural environment, the weather, it's dark as well. People actually do get seasonal depression, and it's even called SAD, which literally spells sad. Don't be sad and get sad, and then also your immune system is sad. Guys, just don't do that to yourself. So be wise. You do need community. Now, not everyone is going to be part of your community, so don't force issues. And that's a mistake that I think some people make, and I also made first year, especially when things are good before the weather gets bad. Your first term or first semester, weather's good, there are all of these events. They throw so many events, and please definitely go to a couple, but you don't have to go to all. Don't wear yourself thin, especially if you're dealing with jet lag. You're going to start classes. It's a new environment, and you're going to every single party. And this goes for both the introverts and the extroverts. For the introverts as well, don't stay in completely. You have to build things up. You do need to find someone who will, maybe go to the dining hall with you. I personally, I'm very, very lucky. I had my cousin Michelle right here with me. When things got bad, she could pick me up and take me to Mickey D's, and I could get a Frosty. Wait, Frosty is from Wendy's. Too much fast foods. Please stay away from those things as well. I mean,
McFlurry.
in moderation. McFlurry. There we go. I don't have Mickey D's in the UK, so I've even forgotten what those are. But Michelle was there for me, and then when Michelle left, I also had other friends who could pull you out of situations when you're not pulling yourself out. But that's not every single kind of friend. And I think the tip I would give, if don't force yourself out there, but also don't stay in, there is a way to connect with people. What is it about you that you love that you can use to connect with other people? If you're not a party person, if you're not, going to go for every single thing, you're not going to, tear it up on the dance floor with your piano moves, you don't like that, then don't force yourself to go for all the BSU parties or the Latin America parties. I'm talking about those parties. Those are the only parties where the music is actually good. But if you like the unsuns, please do go for the unsuns. But if you're not into parties, don't go for parties. Maybe you want to be part of the football club and you want to do the sunset football games, or maybe you want to throw darts, or you want to be in the swimming club, or maybe you want to be in the movie club because you watch really niche movies, or you're into some horror films, and you can, and maybe that's how you're going to connect with people. Personally, I'm a mix of both. I can't be out all the time, but I also found that I do love being around people, but I really can't be partying all the time, or having a good time. So what I used to do is I used to make tea for random people. I'll be like, hey, of course, not picking people off the street. I mean, they go to my college, guys. Be aware as well, because some people don't become friends with everyone. But just people from my college, I'll be like, hey, I'm making Kenyan tea. Have you ever had Kenyan tea? Come and sit. And so other people would also make connections, and I would meet new people, and I'd feel warm, and I would, be excited, and I'd learn new things about the college from seniors who've done it before me. So do make friends across the years, because they have tips and they have tricks, but do it in a way that is comfortable, not meaning that you always stay within your comfort zone, but it means that you're not moving into situations that cause you to panic and also flail around academically. Lastly, because I have 1 minute, procrastination. Okay, listen, I am a procrastination warrior. I have been there, I've done it all. But you will not win the game forever, okay? The house always wins. That's why people should never go gambling, because the house always wins, which means procrastination will make you pay a serious consequence. When you get there, I don't mean, bear on all the anxieties of looking for jobs, looking for internships, looking for opportunities at the same time, but make a plan. Because if you start looking for an on-campus job, this is very different from an internship, but if you're trying to look for one of those dining hall jobs or those library jobs, the library jobs go very quick. You're getting paid to study. It's a nice gig, but they go really quick. So if you haven't already started searching for some of those jobs, even before you touch down, think about it for the next year. And then the other jobs, you can start, to think about it when you're on the ground. But I remember getting to Pomona, and I had this Rwandan friend, and he told me, oh, I already have a job. we've just landed, we're in quarantine. What do you mean you just have a job? So you have to, procrastination will really punish you. So make a plan, think about the things that will add value to your experience, but please don't just think the campus life is everything, because there is something about the city and the place that you're in that can also be quite magical, and there can be opportunities there. So leave your university. And that's why some of these jobs are nice. Sometimes you need the extra cash so that you can leave the university and go and experience this new country, a new place that you're in. But again, I tell you, from somebody who's really gone through it all, procrastination will make you pay a very heavy fine, especially for the things that really matter. So thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed talking to you all. I do hope that you take it seriously with studying abroad. And it really can be life changing, to be honest. I'm absolutely loving it here. I'm loving the experiences. I don't think I've sat down with so many like prime ministers in my life, and not all of them are that great. So you see, we're really learning about people here. So go out there, attend events, sign up for something random, and it can be a really great experience. So God bless. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Shaq. Thank you so much. I know you had to run. Thank you so much for helping us. We really enjoyed it. All right, great, 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 great. These are really, really good points. I'm really, even for me, I'm learning a few things as well. All right. Anyone else want to jump in on this two
I mean,
questions? I think
for sure.
what I want to understand, I think maybe nobody has pointed out, is how did you cope with things that became difficult? Like, I want really these specific experiences you've had there, as you touch on how you deal with um, one mistake you made when you arrived.
For sure. I
So
think
maybe,
a couple of things come to mind, and I agree with everything that has been said. But one of the things that comes to mind is one, do not feel the need to reinvent yourself to try to fit in. Like, I know some people made the mistake of like becoming and everything, like from day one, they want to change everything about themselves. They want to speak with American accents. They want to pretend that they've never seen Africa before. Like don't you put yourself in this weird identity crisis where you are here because you have something unique to offer, and to be proud of where you come from, be proud of your experiences and lean into that. If you're a person of faith, find a church, find a community. Like, don't feel the need to, I'm in America, so now I had a friend actually who was like, I'm in America, so now we are all atheists. And I'm like, No, relax, take your time, ask some questions before you come to this conclusion. um the second thing that comes to mind is, do not forget why you're here. Um, I remember like my freshman year, there was a Kenyan guy who actually had to go home. Because like you come in and you're like, oh yeah, we all have the financial aid and we have the scholarships and it's great. But then you forget that your scholarship is contingent on your academic performance. It's contingent on you being in good academic standing. And sometimes you come in, you get enamored with all the experiences. Um, you forget that you are an international student, so you are still here to study. And so please, don't forget that. And finally, please learn financial responsibility. Because I think for most of us, um this would be like the first time being away from home, managing your own money, working, being able to actually have the freedom because you don't have your mother there to tell you don't go here. And so you can just get up in the afternoon and you realize you have free will. So you just go to Old Navy to go and spend your money. I'm talking from experience. Just buy all the clothes that you want, go to all the stores in the mall and just like buy everything. And then you realize that bank accounts can actually go into negatives. Or you take a credit card, you feel like it's free money. It's not. They'll collect it at the end of the month. So learn how to budget, learn financial responsibility. And in those moments when you actually do feel low, they've mentioned it, find community, find people that you can talk to, find people that you trust. But also call home and talk to your parents, talk to your friends, keep in touch. Social media exists, watch the news, like feel connected in one way or the other, and it really helps.
great
Also,
one. Yeah. So as we talk about this, let me kind of drop in a little bit of this in there. I know there are a few parents here, so um, this idea, parents sometimes prefer these safe courses, right? I mean, we know that, right? There are these safe courses, medicine, engineering, law, computer science, and all of that. But you do have students also who have certain um, um, passions or interests. Um, and it creates tension between parents and students. I mean, with their kids. So my question here is, what do you think about this particular tension? Parents, I mean, of course, parents are really thinking about, will this help you get a job? Will this kind of help you settle in and start a life and all of that? What are you guys, your thoughts on that? Have you had experiences with that where somebody picked a non-traditional path? How did it work out for an international student for that matter? So I mean, I see Ben had taken a non-traditional path, but I would want to hear your thoughts on that. As of course, if you've not talked about the previous question, I also thought you can merge those two uh, in that as well. So probably maybe I could start with Ben since he kind of took a different path, this and over there, and any other person can join in as on that as well as we kind of try to close on that particular one on this discussion.
Yeah, so for me, I went into my major was industrial and labor relations. That's basically has to do with how the law industries and people like work together. And it's a very good major, but it's not for me. So in my junior year, I took I took the year off because I was like, okay, I need to figure out what I want to do because I don't want to do ILR.
I mean, how was
So,
your reaction to that?
my parents are my mom is always just like, follow what you feel is right. As long as I can give my reasoning, my logic behind my decisions, they don't have a problem. And so that's when I started to take courses. Basically, like what I do for my research is essentially self-taught because I started taking physics classes. I still took them outside of school because I finished my ILR degree because it was too late to switch. So I had to finish my degree while still doing physics and computer science on the side. So it paid off because now that's actually what I do, and I can speak to the job problem of telling people that they need to take these certain courses because they'll get these certain jobs. I work in AI at like the foundations now, and the public right now, what the public has is basically, I'd say 2 years behind the actual foundational research of how these machines work. So I think the job market is going to change very drastically. Those traditional paths are not going to be the same paths that you think they are at this point in time. So I would say that is a big factor that parents have to think about. How does AI sort of relate to what the child or what your family wants the person or what they want to do? Because that's a big factor moving forward, I think.
So Harun, what have been your experience? And right now you're working in the startup. What are your thoughts on this whole tension with parents really being worried about um would you get a job after this? Does it make sense now to even be studying computer science, considering the advent of AI? What are your thoughts on that, Harun? I'm sure
Y-
some people have questions on that.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of concern, not just for computer science, but also for other fields where you can get into careers like investment banking, consulting. where there's concerns about this. But in my opinion, the thing is, you're the AI simply right now is not at a point where it can just automate everything. Um, and so in many ways there's still value in terms of um like engineering, and I think there's also things that the degree teaches you that are very applicable to the job. So I still think there is value for sure. I think what people don't realize is, I think what AI has done actually, if anything, it's just made resources more centralized for everyone. And so in doing so, I think that's led to the job market becoming more partly led to the job market becoming more difficult. Of course, there's other factors like the economy and whatnot. But now, like, a lot of people have the same access to the same resources to apply to jobs and things like that. I think the biggest thing that you have to realize is like, in whatever direction you go, you just have to find a way of making yourself competitive, regardless of any of who else is there. So in my case, like, um, I just made sure that I tried to network with the best people that I could, and really understand, like, because I knew, okay, now I'm going into tech. I like really understood the tech landscape. So talking to people who were maybe venture capitalists, who were investors, things like that. So the biggest advice that I would give, regardless of what path you go, even for parents, is just understand that, hey, the world is just more competitive, and understand that the time that your child is going into the workforce is completely different. Things were completely different 5 years ago, even 20 years ago. It's a completely different game. So it's a bit of pressure, but you have to recognize that when you go to college, you have to learn that, hey, a lot of things are changing fast, and I have to adjust with the times. So I would advise people that really, really spend a lot of time um, trying to get up to speed, um, and learning as much information as possible, and that will set you apart when you then go and decide to apply for jobs. So that's my biggest advice that I would say.
Harun, on that point, just pick one. Do you think that um, what you're doing in class, in college, and the internships you're doing, does it help you get a better picture of how your career will look like eventually, considering, I mean, one, you are in class, you know what you have to study, you know the courses you need to do, and also doing your internships as well. It gives you a sense of where the job market is going. Do you think a lot of students studying abroad tend to have similar experience of adjusting what they want to study or the kind of courses they should take, because maybe they have some exposure through the internships? Or what are your thoughts on that? I mean, as
Yeah,
seeing things are changing very quickly.
yeah, absolutely. I totally agree, actually. So I did some intern. The purpose of internships is to like learn what you do and don't like. And I think as young people, we get told that, hey, by 19, 20, 18, we have to know what we're doing for the rest of our lives. And I want to tell you guys that you have the opportunity to change. Even if you say like, okay, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor. There's many types of lawyers, there's many types of doctors. And even if you can make changes in terms of what you want to do. So the way I would um advise people is like, take those experiences, whether it's the internships, the clubs, the classes you're taking, and you know recognize that, hey, um today I might be interested in this, but in 6 months I might find that this is no longer something that is interesting to me. So be open to change is what I would definitely advise. And that's the purpose of these internships, the classes you take, the, professors, friends you make. They're also to give you perspective on like um other things and make you realize what you do or don't like, Some of my internships I did at big tech companies, and I came to realize that, hey, I don't want to work in big tech actually. And some people, it was like for the longest time I thought like, yeah, I would, working at Google would be fantastic. Of course everyone knows Google, but I came to realize that, things can be a bit slow at working at a place that big, and so I wanted to go somewhere smaller. So all that to say is like, don't box yourself in. Try many things and recognize that, hey, I'm still young, things can change. I'm only 23, and like I said, when I first came into college, I thought I was going to be pre-med, and I changed. So yeah.
All right. Okay. So, kind of final thoughts here on this discussion. I know I've raised a few points here. My last top or area I wanted us to touch on before we bring in Barry for about 10 minutes or so to talk about the gap year, especially for those of you who are thinking of, you know what, I want to take some time to figure myself out. The Barry program, as just mentioned, is one of such that will really give you the chance to explore different interests you have. I think it's not even just for high school students, even those of you in college or just finished college and you want to kind of discover yourself, the Barry program is also very, very helpful for such a purpose. So, a question here, my final question here, and again, if there are any questions from the audience, you can also put it across there. So what should students start doing now to prepare uh, academically or in any way? What is the one thing that they need to start doing? Those who are still in high school, we all been to high school, of course. What should they be doing to prepare themselves to study abroad, extracurricular wise, in terms of academically, socially? What should they be doing now? What is the preparation that needs to be done? Those in grade 11, those in grade 10, those in about to start applying, what should they be doing? I mean, I want to hear from everyone based on your experience. You're there. What should they be doing now so that they don't have to go through some of the challenges that we went through? Should they be doing now? So anyone can jump in on this one.
I'd say make sure that your sort of extracurriculars align with who you are, something that you can explain, especially in an essay. Because with admissions nowadays, they're not really focused on the SATs as much. You have to be able to sort of explain yourself and how you align with your passions and what those passions can contribute to like your academic life in the university. So that's what I'd say. Try to align what you're doing with your ambitions.
Glenn?
I agree with that, but I also think ask questions. Um, Ask questions about yourself. What are you interested in? What do you want to study? Um, just ask questions. I think this is a good time to explore and just be curious about yourself and about others and about where you're from. And yeah.
Okay. Michelle?
I think those are really good points. Asking questions and be curious. And being curious, I really would like and encourage students and parents to read read articles, research schools, research majors. I know when you Google 10 best high paying jobs, that's what you think like kids or yourselves should do. I do think that you should really now focus on honing in on the skills that you or your child has, their interests, providing support within those interests. YouTube University is free. They can learn skills like probably what Benjamin did as well. Like you can go online and learn the skills that you would want to if you want to go into a specific area that's non-traditional. Um, have discussions with people like Mr. Lawson and just be able to ask questions from professionals who do this full time and can be able to guide you whether you're going to join AFEX or not. And that kind of curiosity is going to give you a more solid foundation than somebody who's just going winnie winnie wana just in there, just allowing life to take you. And so I would say curiosity would be your best friend, and you read books and you read articles, and you can learn a lot from social media. There are a lot of YouTube videos of people who explain their first year, how they adapted. It provides you that insight, and even you can learn those things from 10th grade. So your mind is molded to, I need to build my extracurriculars. These are the things that I'm seeing that successful students who went to a specific group of schools that I want to apply to were doing. A plan will never fail you, but a good plan will never fail you with a solid foundation. If you're prepared, and it will get you somewhere, it will land you somewhere. It may not be everything you want, but at least 70% to 80%, you will get where you need to go. And I do think that's the one thing that really, really helped and benefited my path moving forward.
All right. Um, anyone else has a thoughts there before on that one? There were three questions though that came from the registration form. I don't know whether that I should throw that to the panel. There was a question on scholarships and what it covers. What exactly does when you get scholarship, what does it cover? Again, I'll just throw that out there, and I'm sure all of you were on some form of scholarship or the other. So, what does scholarship typically cover? That was the question. And what course should families still prepare for? It's one of those questions there. And then there's how should students choose the right school? All right. Is it big school or small school? Ranking versus fit, or scholarship versus name, location versus opportunity? Those are the questions that came there on that. Can any major that you pick, or yeah, any major that you work for international student, or there are some courses more practical when thinking about jobs or visas or career opportunity? Those are the three broad areas. And I don't mind anyone jumping in to kind of respond to those. And if you don't mind, just for just a few minutes, 2 minutes, and we can push to Barre there. I know we've taken a bit of time, but yeah,
Yeah.
this is a very
I think
important discussion.
for scholarships, it's a wide range and it could be a bunch of things. And so you want to definitely talk to the school to figure out what they have to offer. Some schools will do merit-based scholarships based on your performance, your scores, and everything. Some schools are going to do need-based, where you have to apply, tell them, oh, my family is actually poor, and then they make an assessment on that to see. But also, some of these schools would make these scholarships conditional. Sometimes you might have to maintain a certain GPA. Sometimes you'd have to reapply every year to keep proving that your family's financial situation has not changed. And that will cause them to either adjust. Sometimes full ride does not mean full ride. Sometimes it just means they're taking care of your tuition. And so the scholarship might cover only tuition and it might not cover living expenses. And so you definitely want to read the fine print on all of these before you apply or commit to a certain school. Outside of that, and so like point is, it really depends. There's no really one answer. there's a wide range of what a scholarship could mean that you should definitely check all these things. Are they covering only tuition? Are they covering living expenses? What living expenses are they covering? Are they covering some schools will go to the extent of giving you allowances for winter clothing. Some schools will not do that. Some schools will pay for your flights. Some schools will not do that. And so you want to ask all these questions. Some schools will pay for flights to go visit your family over breaks. Some schools will definitely not. And so you want to definitely look into all of these. Other costs that you should be prepared for. Some schools will cover this and some will not, but flights, you should be prepared to pay US specific things like service fee. Even before you get here, you have to pay the US government money. And usually that service fee, it's not to the school, it's to the US government to set a student record for you. You have to be prepared for some of the deposits. Some schools will require you to pay the admissions deposit. I was talking to a student recently who got admission, got a full ride, but the school is going to require him to pay the housing deposits to prove that he has some skin in the game. And so like all these like even initial costs that you have to bear before you come, and then other costs. Most schools will not provide you housing during the winter. And so where are you going to live when school is on break? That is something you should be thinking about. Are you going to be working? If you're not working, um, how are you going to find? Would you have to sublet an apartment? Would you have to live in school subsidized housing? Like those are all costs that you have to start thinking about and planning for. And there are definitely more. And so
Right.
Sorry, I'm
Okay.
just gonna pop in there real quick. To touch on scholarships, I do agree that you should like go to the university that you're interested in. They usually have info sessions like this, webinars, where they talk about all these things. And usually you think that for domestic students a lot, but international students can truly benefit from the information that they give in those financial aid sessions because it can guide you. You have to fill out a form called CSS. It's very long, it's very meticulous. If you do not have the right support, you can mess that up and that can impact your aid. So getting that would benefit you. And scholarships can change. I went in on a 75% scholarship. After my first semester, I ended up full ride. And so once you get to school, that can increase. And that was a really good benefit for my family. And it helped over time because now they could save that and I could just figure out how to get a job to be able to support myself the rest of the way. To initial costs as well, they have a laundry list of shots and medical things that you need to fill out before, those costs will add up and you won't even imagine how much. And I'm talking about you're spending $500 and that's almost 70,000 shillings plus on just shots and all these things and vaccinations that you need to have before they even allow you in the US. And you have the service fee, you have the fee that you pay to the embassy for the appointment, and then you have some in between fees as well. When you are about to start your CPT or I don't know if it's CPT, but OPT, you have to pay around $400 before you get your card and you renew that every year. I had to renew it every year. I had to pay that 400 every year when I got my OPT. So those are fees that you need to consider. And also when you're about to go to school, I know you may think, oh, my child doesn't need that much pocket money. They're going to have to move into a dorm and start a dorm from scratch. So bed sheets, all these things, and they add up in the States. So I would say that is also something that you need to be budgeting a decent amount for, whether you're taking your child to school or not. And those kind of transition fees usually add up. So whether you're on a full ride or not, you should be budgeting a good amount to be able to accommodate those costs. In regards to courses, you should be open. And education is important, but experiences combined with that education really provides a good basis for being successful in the US. So although I was biochemistry pre-med and I gave myself the opportunity to explore outside. So I did biotech sometime, and I went into beauty and fragrance development, and that really now paved the way, even though that was not still my major, and that was not the course that I had come into school to complete. And now that allowed me to build my network, and my network has allowed me to now do venture capitalist funding and all that stuff. And that was outside of my classroom. So exploration and curiosity will allow you to to stretch far and wide to be able to gain everything that you may need and get the best out of the experience that you have. I think the greatest skill that you can also have coming to the US is the ability to pivot. We as have had to pivot, even as adults, you guys have to pivot as well. So just being able to plan that into your kids as well, that like things can change in the blink of an eye. What are you going to do in this situation and how are you going to navigate forward? And that can impact just how you move through school. For example, I came in the end of my first year, the whole world had shut down for COVID. And I was like that for a year and a half. And there's so much experiences that I missed out on, like internships. So very many summers that I couldn't get internships because the structure hadn't really adapted to us being at home all the time. What did that look like? And so now that forced me to change my mindset of like, okay, so this is where we are. How can I make the best of what I have? And so that skill set has allowed me to really really allowed me to gain the best of where I am with what I have moving forward. Yeah.
I think something
Okay.
that we talked about advocating for yourself, but something that you have to keep in mind is you just have to constantly do that. And one of the most terrifying moments of my undergrad is when I got an email saying I no longer qualify for any financial aid. And I was so scared because I was like, surely this is a mistake. And it was because the year before I had filled out my CSS, I had filled out my financial aid in dollars. And the next day I was filling it out in cities, and so the amounts looked inflated. And whoever was reviewing it just assumed I was filling it in dollars like I did the year before. So they were like, "Oh, wow, your family's income has increased 10 times." It had not. And so they made a mistake and read it in dollars instead of cities. So they were like, "I'm rich. They're not going to give me money." And that was very, very terrifying. So you should keep like advocating for yourself in that way. But on jobs and majors, there was that question on that. I agree that you should explore. More importantly, I think it's not about your skill, like, because there are many jobs that will ask you, yeah, what's your degree and whatnot. But at the end of the day, people do care whether you can do the work. And so it's about your skills and what you're bringing to the table. And so if you're so worried that, yeah, I want to have some stability while I explore this, then pick up things. Like I was in ILR studying labor, but I learned how to code. And so if push came to shove and I needed to take a computer science job to subsist a bit, I would be able to do that. Like it's about skills and what you can bring to the table, what's transferable for you. And that helps. So yeah.
Um, I know there's a lot to be said, but I need to bring in Barre for a few minutes, Kaz, so that I can give my panel a little break, so that we kind of do the final part of the webinar. So Kaz, if I don't know whether you have a presentation to give from Barre. So panelists, you can take a short break from there. But audience, you can keep bringing in your questions. I can see that somebody has asked a question. What tips do you guys wish you had when applying for these scholarships, grants, and bursaries? I think panel members, you can also respond to the questions there. We don't have to wait till we come back. So if you have a response to that panelists, you can go ahead and give your responses to the audience there. But Kaz, are you ready? I know I've taken a little bit of more time than usual, actually a lot of time. But if you can do a quick presentation of what Barre is all about, kids, the students want to know, parents want to know, those of you considering the gap year program, that will help you build your this thing. So, Kaz, go ahead.
Hi, I'm here. Sorry, I'm sorry. Today just running into all the complications. I'm swapping devices like right now. And so then I do not disconnect from the call. And then I'm gonna give my little presentation.
Okay, okay. So as we wait for Cass to do that, for the breakaway room, since we don't have some of the panel members have left, we'll just have a couple of them. Linda, are we ready on that? I don't know whether you can explain that to the audience if we want the breakaway rooms so that we can easily um prepare for that after the barrier presentation.
Hi guys. Hi, my name is Linda. Thank you guys for the presentation. Everything was nice and well explained. Those were great insights. So from the breakout rooms, we have different fields, or let me just say fields of study. Yeah. So we have law policy and international relations. We have health and medicine, engineering, technology and innovation, finance, entrepreneurship, and business. So there's going to be a breakout rooms, and then you can join the groups. Like you can join which group you want, so that you can get more insight. So I've created the groups. I want to share them, and then you can just join whichever group you want. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think that's clear. Maybe the modalities of it. The breakout room will be a very short time, so just about 5 to 10 minutes, and we will be done with the breakout room. So if you have any specific questions, that would be the chance to do that. So it will be very short. But any other general question, please put it in the chat. The panel members are there to respond to it. So go ahead and do that. But if these are questions related to these specific areas, you can wait for the breakout rooms there. Thank you, Linda. Kaz, go ahead. Do you have a presentation you want to share, a PowerPoint or anything like that, Kaz, so that Linda can help share that document?
No, unfortunately, I was not informed that I needed one of those. So I just brought myself and my experience and what we had discussed earlier to.
That's okay. That's okay. Go ahead. But I'm sure you share the link and everything to the Barry website, and you guys, Barry can make you guys
There's something wrong
available
with
to
the
talk to you.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me. Okay.
All right.
Yes. So, hello everybody. My name is Kazaina Kofa Mekana Senanu, and as I said earlier, I'm 18 years old, and I just had the opportunity to attend Beret Scholars, which is a global gap year program that takes you abroad through 7 regions around the world to understand about the planet, the people, find your own purpose, and learn about other people to become a global citizen, basically. And um during your year, you do lectures with multiple big brand names and very smart people in every region. You also do after school activities, where you can learn about global politics. You can do filmmaking and cinematography. There's a hiking club, and separate from that, of course, your own adventures that you curate and plan by yourself. So the reason I'm mentioning this is because when parents usually think about a gap year, they think that their kid is gonna be absolutely wasting their time and really just spending their money recklessly as they travel to different countries. But Beret does offer a lot of opportunities for its students to learn and basically grow while they're there for the purpose bit. So I'm gonna talk about how my
I think, Cass, we're having a little problem. Okay. Yeah,
uh,
go ahead.
this Wi-Fi.
It seems she's still having a little problem with your Wi-Fi. Can you
Oh,
hear us?
yes. Yes, I can hear you now. I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, as I was saying, Beret starts off in America and ends in China. So as you can see, two ends of the world starting from and two very different global perspectives. For me, I did not.
I think we are having challenges with Cass, your internet. Can we maybe, as you sort out your internet, can we pivot to the breakaway rooms, if possible? Is that okay, Kaz?
Hello. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. I've swapped to hotspot. I don't know why my Wi-Fi chooses to act up in my one opportunity, but
Okay, go ahead.
yes. So I started off my journey in Sao Paulo in Brazil, and throughout there, the places that stood out the most to me was actually Brazil, first and foremost, because I went to the Amazon for the week, and nothing can top that for me personally. I lived on a boat with no Wi-Fi. I was staying there in hammocks. The shower was the size of a cupboard with the toilet there and a dustbin. It was just truly um definitely like one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. I think going to such a place and we engaged with tribal communities. Hello, can you hear me? Yes, when we engaged with the native tribal Amazonian communities and having to interact with someone who has never come across in Wi-Fi, internet, even the way we dress, they don't know what this is. They don't know what my sweatshirt is. Such things. It really was the biggest mind shift I could have ever experienced, and I would have never gone through that if I'd never gone on my gap year. I think that's when my purpose and my mind kind of started shifting. From there, I went to Sevilla in Spain, where I learned about flamenco and cultural, and just seeing that I don't know. I don't think European culture is promoted as much as African culture or Asian culture in this current day and age. But to learn about the certain music, the certain drums, how they still, even as we don't realize that we're connected globally as the world, there's still such small things. For example, in flamenco, they use a specific guitar that actually started originating from India. And you would have never seen the link between India and Spain if you never traveled and never experienced and never asked questions and started to be curious. So I what stood out the most to me during my Beret experience was definitely conversating with people. Going back to the Amazon, I could not communicate with the tribal chief at all. There was no way that my English or even my horrible Swahili could get to him. However, having our guide in between us, changing and exchanging our different questions and just our experiences really helped us connect, even though words weren't a way of connecting. Also, body language and sharing things you had from home, and like the little kids in the tribe were giving us like toys and doing our face paint and makeup basically, and those things, the connections and the experiences we made through talking to different people is what stood out the most to me. But what I probably should have started with is why I believe a gap year is so important before university. And that is because of having a bit of a pause to gain clarity. For example, my background with education is that I started off my high school experience in Kenya. I attended St. Andrew's Turisu. Yes, one of those international big schools. And from there, I finished off my high school experience in South Africa, studying at this school called African Leadership Academy. And the pressure I went through and the academic struggle I went through definitely ruined some things for me. It ruined, it confused me. Everybody wanted to be a doctor, and for one, was not taking the traditional route of an African kid. I wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be an animator, and I had no confidence in myself. And taking a gap year helped shape me and helped shape my belief in myself and what I wanted to be and my purpose. It helped me mature in ways that I couldn't have learned if I hadn't gone to different countries. It helped me become a better communicator. It helped me become more adaptable from in how I changed to different countries. And like I mentioned before, helped me learn how to communicate with people and understand the intricacies. Okay, I don't know if that's how you say that word. But learn the small niche differences of people from different backgrounds, because when you go into university and such spaces, there's so many different people that you run into, and if you don't know how to work with them and live with them, you're gonna struggle, because you'll just be wondering why is this person why is this person acting like this, why are they treating me like this, when really it's just the way they grew up, just as you did. um for me personally, I, like I mentioned before, I wanted to be an animator. I wanted to go against the norms of African child and be like, yeah, I'm gonna study the arts. And turns out now that I am starting to focus in applying to universities, that I am doing a total 180, and now I want to do nursing like a crazy person who and now I want to be in the medical field. And I would have never had the time to learn such things about myself, and even think that I had such a passion for taking care of people, and just making sure, people have the best access to medical care, if I never gone on a gap year. um what else is there for me to say? Um, so that's how beret and going on a gap year influenced my academic and my career thinking forward. Because even though I'm still very passionate about being an animator and an artist, I don't remember who exactly mentioned it earlier. AI has stepped into the picture, and as much as people appreciate human created things and creativity, and that human touch, it can only go so far before we are like, okay, no, we are replaced. That's very dramatic. But before the jobs that I could do with an animation degree become very AI focused and, very AI supported. Therefore, in that retrospect, it wasn't going to work for me in the long term to, provide for my family and my future. But it also gave me the opportunity to, to learn something else that I'm very passionate about. Um, and when it comes to advice I'd give to students and parents is, I believe that taking a gap year is investing in yourself. And it might be very hard to explain, mostly to an African parent, or even to yourself as an African student, because we probably look at people who, or I used to look at people who take gap years as the most dumb people in the world. Like, I do remember some point in year 6 saying people who take gap years are people who failed in life, and that's the only reason they need that break. But taking one is actually taking the time to learn about yourself, invest into yourself, and build yourself up before anyone else can get to you. Because with all of the pressure and things you need to do in university, from socializing, internships, settling, and all those things, you need to be very confident in yourself, and you need to have a strong foundation. And with majority of the high schools that we attend in Africa, and just on our continent, and in our country in Kenya, they don't really focus on building you as an individual. They focus on building you as a class. The class of 2025 smartest, A-star in biology, chemistry, math. They focus on those numbers. Not usually schools don't focus on building your characteristics, on being charismatic, on being you know learning how to be a leader, all of those different things. Schools don't usually focus on that, and choosing to take a gap year really helps build on that. I think it also, for parents, if you're really stressed about university costs and you haven't really figured out your finances yet, at least you have 1 year before your child goes to university to figure out your finances. And programs like Beret do provide scholarship and financial aid for students up to basically 100% for your child to go to like 8 countries around the globe that they probably will not touch without that opportunity. And I think that's very important, because um not all of us get that chance. Like, I never had even interest to really go to Brazil. And now that I say it, that sounds very stupid, because they are literally so amazing and so full of culture and life. But I would have never even thought about asking my dad, hey, dad, can I go to Brazil for like the summer? I can't ask that. There's no way to provide for such an opportunity where you're not really gaining anything, and such an experience kind of looks like an expense. But with programs like Beret, you do gain other things. You gain friends, you gain industry connections. And I think I didn't focus on this enough, but the lecturers who come to speak to us are a part of the government. They're a part of Google. They're a part of Microsoft. They're a part of Lululemon. And I wish I made presentation slides, because then I could start showing off some of my industry connections right now, which I would love to brag about, or more, I'd say, like, I'd love to show that I'm confident, more confident, engaging with people in the industry, because I got to talk to the CEO of the China branch of CAA, which is the number one creative industry that help their agents for basically eyeshadow speed, Tom Cruise, Lady Gaga, all those big names. I got to engage with the person at the top of the hierarchy in the corporate world, and I don't know how I would have ever got there if I'd just gone straight into university and not taken time to work with myself and have found my passion to the point where I'm confident enough to speak about it and engage with a person that is so well versed in their world and in their self, and have so much confidence in themselves. So that is what I have to say about Beret. There are many other scholars that are very open to conversation, and yes, more very open to conversation. I saw a little comment about university and Beret, and this is something I didn't talk about because I'm still not sorted with that. But I do know AFEX has, of course, very amazing connections to Beret. As you can see, majority of the alumni panels are in Ivy Leagues, which is very insane to me. But Beret also provides such counseling through AFEX and through themselves to ensure that you can monetize this gap year program to universities so they can understand the value of gained. And really, in 2026, what many universities are looking for is someone who can connect with everyone, someone who's very well known about not every situation that's going on in the world, but someone who's not ignorant, basically. And usually staying in your country and not being curious enough to go learn about different places, and actually being there in person teaches you more than you can ever research online. Those physical experiences are what universities are currently looking for. They're looking for someone who can bridge the gap between different communities, and I think that is very important. And yep, that is all.
All right. Good. Thank you so much, Kaz. I think we have run out of time. I'm so sorry. There's so many things that we want to talk about, but we'll have to end here. You can still send in your questions to us. The panelists have told me that they are ready to respond to these questions, and these questions are ones that we are going to. These responses are one that we're going to share either in video form or text on our different platforms. So we've run out of time. We wish we could have more time, but these are different time zones, and we have to respect that. So yes, we said we'll do the breakout room, but we can't do that now. But on our next webinar, we are definitely going to have time to go into the specific areas. If you have any questions, send it to our social media platforms or our WhatsApp number. It's 0704 904 500. 0704 904 500. If you want to send questions on that, we'll share it with our panelists to try and respond to it. There are some who couldn't make it, but they are also very, very eager to respond to your questions, whether it is in health, whether it's in finance or entrepreneurship. If you have specific questions, please send it to us and we'll definitely make sure we respond to it. Those of you who also are interested in our program, you want to join the AFEX application program, use the same numbers and we can definitely set up a consulting session with you. I'm so sorry we've run out of time, but we'll respond to every single question that you send to us. And hopefully, in our next discussion, we can have more time and cover more ground. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. I know this is a holiday, but we really hope that we've learned a lot from this webinar. And hopefully, on the next one, we can go into specific concerns that we have. Thank you so much. Enjoy your evening. Bye.
Thanks, Mr. Lawson. I appreciate the session.
Thank you, Michelle. I know you guys have to go.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. All right.
All
Have a
right.
great
Thank you.
time. Bye. Linda, I mean, if there are any questions, you can always take them down. A few of them have asked that they they could respond to it. So,
Okay, okay.
but I think we got the recording. There are a few points there. I think there's one person still left in Jockey. You
Yeah,
can
remember.
sign her out. Yeah.
Mm, mm.
So I'm good. You have the recording. What I want us to
Mhm.
do with the recording is see how we can get some sound bites from it. There's so many things that were said. So this
Yeah.
is something that you can work with Lincoln on it. Take the video, see if you can extract some of the sound bites, some of the key
Mhm.
points that they made there, so that these
Okay.
are things. And then we can also reach out to the panelists to see if they're okay if we use some of the videos on our socials. This is something that we need to start doing and make sure that they are okay with it.
Mm.
So but first let's work with Lincoln and see how we can break it down. Okay.
Okay, that's okay. But
It's
good
a bit
job. It was
different.
nice.
Yeah, it's a long one. I realized that, oh my God, we I hope you saw the stop the recording.
Oh, wait.